Wednesdays, the bold and the beautiful may look like playful drama on the surface, but something far more explosive could be brewing underneath. As Electra finds herself in a surprising position of power, Ridge turns his attention to RJ, and what starts as a warning may crack open a buried truth. This is the kind of episode where tension shifts fast, masks slip, and one secret could change everything. The courtroom-style setup with Electra is easily one of the most interesting emotional twists in this spoiler. Usually, Electra is the one being discussed, pursued, or pulled into other people's drama. But this time, the balance may shift. This time, other people come to her. They plead, they explain, they try to be persuasive. That changes the energy immediately. It means Electra is no longer just caught in the middle. She may be the one deciding how much she believes, how much she tolerates, and who deserves her trust. That matters because when two people make separate appeals to the same person, it often reveals more than they intended. It is not just about the words they choose. It is about tone. It is about desperation. It is about whether they seem calm, defensive, manipulative, or sincere. And for Electra, this may be one of those moments where listening becomes more powerful than speaking. She may start seeing contradictions. She may start noticing who is protecting themselves and who is actually telling the truth. And if that happens, the real drama may not come from some big public explosion. It may come from Electra quietly putting the pieces together. That kind of slow realization can be even more powerful in a soap. Because once someone stops being confused and starts understanding, the next move becomes a lot more dangerous. The fact that Will and Ivy take turns pleading their case is fascinating, because it suggests that both of them have something to lose. That instantly makes the situation feel less stable. When characters are forced to make their case one by one, it creates a subtle comparison. Who sounds convincing? Who sounds threatened? Who is trying too hard? In a setup like this, even honesty can sound suspicious if fear is underneath it. And that may be the hidden tension of these scenes. Will may believe he can talk his way through the situation. He may think he understands the emotional stakes well enough to manage Electra's reaction. But if Electra is sharper than he expects, then his explanation could do the opposite of what he intended. Instead of calming things down, he could expose how nervous he really is. Ivy is equally interesting here. If she is making her own appeal, then she may also feel the need to control the narrative before someone else controls it for her. That tells us this is not a casual misunderstanding. This is a pressure point. And what makes it even better dramatically is that Electra is the perfect person to sit in judgment. She has that calm, polished presence. She does not need to shout to dominate a room. If anything, her restraint could make the others even more uncomfortable. That is why these scenes could be unexpectedly strong. Not because someone throws a drink or storms out, but because the emotional temperature may rise through discomfort, hesitation, and the fear of being seen too clearly. Then we get to Ridge, and honestly, this is where the episode may become unintentionally hilarious and genuinely revealing at the same time. Ridge scolding RJ for bringing personal drama into the office is almost impossible to hear without irony. This is Forrester Creations. Personal drama practically lives in the walls. Family conflict, love triangles, betrayals, grudges. This company has never exactly been a model of emotional boundaries. So yes, there is something funny about Ridge acting as if he is restoring order in a workplace that has always been fueled by personal mess. But even so, the scene may still matter a lot. Because Ridge is not just RJ's boss. He is RJ's father. That changes the emotional texture completely. A lecture from Ridge is never just professional. There is always something more layered underneath it: disappointment, concern, control, or a genuine desire to understand what is going wrong. And that may be what makes this moment important. Ridge may begin with authority. He may lay down the law and make it clear that RJ cannot let rage take over again in the office. But once that line is drawn, the conversation may shift. Instead of just punishing RJ, Ridge may start asking the question that actually matters. Why does RJ hate Will this much? That is the question that could transform the entire episode. Because once Ridge realizes this is not only about Electra, the story stops being a simple rivalry and starts looking like something buried has been driving RJ all along. This is where Wednesday's episode could shift from simple rivalry into something much more meaningful. If RJ finally admits that his anger toward Will is tied to a hidden reason, then this conflict may stop looking like a fresh reaction to Electra and start feeling like the latest chapter in a much older emotional war. That would instantly deepen the story, because it suggests RJ is not just reacting to what is happening now. He may be reacting to something he never truly let go of. And that is what makes this spoiler so interesting. A romantic triangle can explain jealousy. It can explain tension, but it usually cannot explain this level of bitterness on its own. If RJ's resentment runs deeper than Electra, then the show may be revealing that there has been unresolved damage between these two for a long time. Maybe it began with a childhood incident. Maybe Will crossed a line years ago. Maybe RJ felt embarrassed, dismissed, or hurt in a way that stayed with him long after everyone else moved on. That kind of wound matters in a soap, because old pain rarely disappears. It usually sits quietly in the background until something in the present brings it roaring back. So if Electra is only the spark, then RJ's emotional explosion starts to make much more sense. Not because he is automatically right, but because the audience can finally see that his anger may be rooted in memory, not just ego. That makes him more layered. It makes the feud more personal. And it gives Wednesday's episode a stronger emotional payoff. What makes it even better is Ridge's role in all of this. If Ridge pushes RJ hard enough to get the truth, then this may become more than a father correcting his son's behavior at work. It may become a moment where Ridge realizes RJ has been carrying around resentment that never fully healed. And once that truth is spoken out loud, it could change how Ridge sees the entire situation. Because at that point, this is no longer just about two young men clashing over the same woman. It becomes a story about buried history, unresolved hurt, and the possibility that this feud was never really as simple as it looked. And once the past enters the conversation, the fallout usually gets much harder to contain. So while Wednesday's episode may open with a slightly lighter, almost playful energy, with Electra unexpectedly placed in the position of listening to both sides and quietly holding the power in the room, that mood may not last for long. Beneath the surface, this story appears to be building towards something much heavier. Because the real turning point may come when Ridge shifts his focus to RJ. At first, Ridge may seem like he is simply doing what any boss would do after workplace tension gets out of control. He wants order. He wants discipline. He wants to make it clear that personal emotions cannot keep spilling into the office. But this is where the scene could become much more layered than it first appears, because Ridge is not only RJ's boss. He is also his father. That means this may stop being a lecture and start becoming something more personal, more uncomfortable, and far more revealing. The moment Ridge starts pressing RJ for answers, the emotional wall RJ has been hiding behind may begin to crack. And that is where this episode could become especially interesting. If RJ finally admits that his hatred of Will is rooted in something older, something buried much deeper than the current Electra drama, then the entire rivalry may suddenly take on a very different meaning. What looked like jealousy or recent resentment may actually be connected to a wound that never fully healed. That possibility alone makes the conflict feel darker, because old pain tends to carry a different kind of intensity. It is not impulsive, it lingers, it waits. And when it resurfaces, it usually comes with much more force than anyone expected. That is why this episode feels like one to watch closely. Not just because of the visible tension, or because of who argues with whom, but because of what these conversations may unlock underneath the surface. If buried resentment is finally dragged into the open, then this may be the moment where the audience realizes the feud between RJ and Will was never as simple as it seemed. And in The Bold and the Beautiful, once the past starts speaking, the fallout is rarely small. It usually changes everything that comes next.